Tremendous blessing to be with you today, heart to heart. This short reading is taken from my book, from the experience of silence as a matrix of experiencing and surrendering to the eternal love that wells up within. Stretch yourself into a new wineskin. Today. Wiggle out of the old, useless, scaled membrane. Today. The covering, it protects you not, save to deprive your lips the taste of your ever new way of being, and the finest wines to spill into gulps of your ancientness. Toss your head back so the night can fill you with its wine. Be drunk with me, and we will run in the moonlight, spinning and tossing, laughing ourselves into waves that ebb and flow, constantly changing, becoming unchanging today. It is the day and the night of our lives, of the story of creation, that reveals to us the eternal message, the message of unconditional love and becoming. It is the day and the night that show us we are always in the embrace of God. Slowly my eyes scanned the world around. A leaf across the street caught my attention, as though it had spoken out to me. Look at me, here I go. And it gently broke from its branch, fluttering to the ground. At this moment, I have no idea how long or short the following series of revelations took place. At first, when the leaf broke and began its descent, I was feeling the joy of the dance. But out of nowhere, deep within, sadness and grief arose. I felt sad the leaf broke away from the place where it was living. I thought it was going to die. Is that what life is about? Was everything moving towards end? In that very feeling, time stopped, and a veil pulled back beyond any thought or any feeling. Effortlessly a knowing came. The leaf existed in God. And I was in God in whom we live and move and have our being. All became luminous and clear. That is what life is about, being and becoming in God. Nothing will ever cease to be, for all things live and become in this God. Sheer happiness cascaded through my soul, and all sadness dissolved away. I wanted the whole world to feel this kind of happiness. We are always in this embrace, and our yes and our response are to that is always calling, beckoning, inviting, and igniting within us.
Good morning, all souls. Traditional souls. Souls that have been traded down over the years. That's good. I love tradition. I love freshness. I love the morning. I love all souls. I love you. And we're going to talk about love a little bit today. Turn to the person next to you and say, I love you. I remember sometime somebody walked to me after in a public service. I had said, I love you all very, very much. I was in a city I was visiting, a church I'd never been into before, and somebody said to me after the service, how can you say you love me? You don't even know me. And I said, that's probably why I love you. If I knew you, I might not. Love is a strange chemistry. It's almost like a pathogen. It's a kind of a disease or dis-ease. There's a lot of tension in it. And it's a trite term that we use rather frequently. And the older I get, the more I realize that we use the word so often that it's beginning to mean less and less unless you really give it some thought. If I talk from the exact subject, love, the essence of human spirituality, it is actually the chemistry of the soul. It comes very natural or very naturally, and we have to work on it. I had a long trip yesterday from Oakland, California. All the planes were late. They were delayed. There's a merger between U.S. Airways and American Airlines, and so there was all kinds of confusion, even with the flight attendants. And I ended up driving from Dallas last night. I got in about 3:30 this morning. I left my glasses at home, so I'm not sure where I am. And is anybody out there? I hear you, but I can't see. And mergers sometimes are difficult. Family mergers, business mergers, merging of ideas, merging of fresh ways of thinking and being can be tormentous. What is love and how do we deal with it? I like to think of the mystery. A mystery is something that is difficult or impossible to understand or explain. The condition or quality of being secret or sacred, mystical or strange. What is it, this strange, mystical emotion we call love? And we all use it quite frequently. And it's one of the most painful chemistries that we go through. Love is sensual and social and spiritual and sexual. There's agape, which is in the Greek New Testament, God's love or the love of God. Then there's phileo, which means friendly, like brotherly love or familial love, Philadelphia, philo, friendly, fondness. Then there is eros or eros, erotic love, the more sexual love. And we all experience all of them, and all of them are fairly, I should say, self-centered, self-serving. Love is really a feeling, and I'm just at 62 years old, admitting that it's almost a pain. I have 2 children. Love hurts. Talk to me, somebody. Most of the pain that we have in a relationship is around love. And it hurts more if somebody loves you, because nobody can hurt you or hate you like somebody you love or somebody who loves you. Some of the worst pain that a human being encounters is the pain between somebody who you're supposed to love. A mystic is a person who seeks by contemplation and self-surrender to obtain unity with or absorption of the deity or of the absolute, or who believes in the spiritual apprehension of truths that are beyond the intellect. If you're really going to be a practicing lover, you have to be a kind of a mystic. because there's something so mysterious about it. When I say mystery, I sometimes translate that missed story. What is the missed story about love? Whether that's your parents or your children or your siblings, your spouse or partner, somebody you commit to in love. Falling in love, I heard somebody say one time, is giving somebody the ability or opportunity to destroy you and trusting that they won't. You on that third marriage, remember that, I'm sure. The mystery, the magic, the manifestation of love. The magic is the power of apparently influencing the course of events. We try with love to steer our lives, to steer our giving, our generosity, to steer our care for other people. And, love is a force and sometimes a farce. What do I mean by that? A farce is described in the dictionary, or defined in some dictionaries, as a comic dramatic work using buffoonery and horseplay, and typically including crude characterization and ludicrously improbable situations. Is that what love is? It is a very powerful force, and sometimes when it disappoints you, it becomes a farce. And sometimes it can go from force to farce to force to farce within minutes. Did I hear somebody say something when I said that? But then the manifestation, there's magic, there's mystery, there's manifestation. Manifestation is an event or action or object that clearly shows or embodies something, especially a theory or an abstract idea. Love is a kind of an abstract idea, which exists mostly in thought, as an idea, but not always having physical or concrete existence. We all say we love. I love you, I love you, I love you. And I think we mean it, do we not? But do we understand it? No. I love you, almost saying I love you is saying I hurt because of you. I remember as my children are growing, there's things I want to do for them. We'd just gone through the transition of losing pretty much everything we had in this city. Some of you will know my story when I began to preach a more expanded love, a more expanded consciousness. And I remember my children were so small, and I'm thinking, now how will I make a living? Because I built the ministry, I was the founder of it, and all the property and all the real estate and all the income and I had $100,000 a month payroll. But then suddenly everything was gone, but I still had my children, I still have my wife. And I remember I started feeling the pain of wanting to make sure that they were taken care of. It was a sensual feeling. I could sense the loss, and I could sense the love. It became tangible and physical to me. And all religions and all cultures experience this. Doesn't matter what your race is. If you ever watch the Animal Channel, which I'm sure some of you do from time to time, it's very interesting the love that you notice animals have for their young. And the care that's there, and sometimes they show the sympathy or the pathology, if you will, the pathos of the pain when a baby is lost, or especially in families like elephants or some parts of the primate family, the monkeys, that they would actually have emotion. Many of you have dogs or pets at home that you know love you. They've never said it. They've shown it some kind of way. The love of a pet is so powerful and it's so consistent. You can mistreat it, forget to feed it, forget to take it out. The little puppy is still there, smiling, wiggling its little tail, and you so often wish your children were that way. Or the one you married was a little puppy. And most folk put their puppies ahead of their people because puppies tend to get along a little bit better. They're more forgiving. And I often say forgiving is basically giving up the right to be right. Or the right, not always the reason to be hurt. Or the right, you give up the right to be angry. Not always the reason to be angry, but love will impose upon you. I have an 85-year-old mother. I just lost my 88-year-old father. And I have siblings that when somebody dies, where there's a will, there's family. Did you get that? Where there's a will, there's family. And if it's not one thing, it's your mother. So anyway, my mother will be in the next service, and I won't use that same phraseology. Now, when Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? He replied, love the Lord your God, vertically, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, he says. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor, horizontally, as you love yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. That's Judaic and Christian love from the Judaic and Christian Bible. Most people don't realize that when you read the Bible, the Bible was written by Jews, to Jews, for Jews, about a Jewish understanding of divinity. Christianity is a branch, and to some people a breach of Jewish thought. But they combine together, and we talk about vertical love of God and horizontal love of one another. And yet our religions tend to discourage us from loving ourselves. My Christian upbringing never made me feel good about me. I always felt that I needed to grovel before an angry, temperamental God with a fairly severe anger management problem, and who needed some pretty severe therapy. And I used to watch Dr. Phil, as many of you do, and I thought, boy, God needs Dr. Phil. Except Dr. Phil's not going to heaven because he cusses. So that's the kind of... When you're brought up in the little narrow-minded life and culture that I was, it was this, you were always trembling around God because he was making a list, checking it twice, going to find out who's naughty or nice. And we didn't know whether Jesus Christ or Santa Claus was coming to town. There was this mixed emotion for several generations. So love got warped, and love got stagnant, and love got paralyzed and crippled and flimsy and hard to detect, hard to determine. People who said they love you or taught you that God did, that same God would, that if you looked at somebody wrong, would damn you to hell. And billions of Christians have believed that, and believe that God requires blood sacrifices in order to forgive. That's what we've been taught. That's what we've believed, and it makes very many people afraid. Even Hitler adopted the concept of burning from our Bibles. That he assumed that God would burn people infinitely, so he just helped God along and called Jesus his Lord. That's actually in some of his diaries. He called himself a Christian. They wanted us to talk about different kinds of love. There's Jewish love and Christian love and Hindu love. But basically, the true love is all the same regardless of denomination, regardless of culture. Christian love comes down to us from the teachings of other religions that predate Christianity by thousands of years. It's not so much about loving Jesus, though most of us who are familiar with his teachings tend to love him, or at least love the teachings. But Jesus taught to love God. People say to me now, you don't preach Jesus. And I say, Jesus didn't preach Jesus. He didn't preach the cross. He didn't preach Calvary. He didn't preach torture. He did preach love. He did preach, I'm quoting him when he says, love God and love your neighbor as you love yourself. Do you love yourself? I love my wife better when I love me. In fact, before I got married, I was nurturing my own self. I was 40 years old when I got married. And I took trips. I learned how to be with me by myself. I went to Cancun alone. I went all the way to Jerusalem alone. I went to Hawaii alone. So by the time I met Gina, I was pretty secure with me and insecure with her, because I had been single for 40 years. I woke up one morning and I remember looking around the house thinking, where'd all these people come? Where'd y'all come from? My children were crawling around, and then you feel the sense of aloneness, and you learn how to manage that aloneness and love yourself. But because I was secure with me, it was easy to share me. It was easy to give part of me away. But it was also a selfish thing to hold my babies and my wife or my parents, push my face against theirs, give them a gift. There was a certain feeling of gratification. Love does have its own, and I'm not talking about sexual arousal, but just like erotic love is aroused, so is agape. The feeling of self-worth when you do a kind deed, when you do something benevolent or something that is philanthropic, you go away feeling good about yourself. That's part of the chemistry of love. You are supposed to feel good about yourself when you take care of your children, when you do something for your wife. Most of you men will admit with me that if you're married and your wife says, my husband bought me a car. My husband bought this for me. My husband did this, even though she may have paid for it. But when she says it, it makes the dude feel really cool. There's just something about our ego. And we men, we must admit, we're about 80% ego and testosterone, and that changes as the years go. As you get a little older, it gets a little just mostly ego. Ego and he-go, something's gone, so you're still there struggling. As I get older, I look at love and how tangible, how the feeling of the electricity and the emotion and sometimes the torment of love. It actually hurts. It actually might make you cry. It might make you angry. It's wobbly, and it's hard to, it's almost like an illusion. It's hard to get a handle on it. Most of you are relating to what I'm saying, if you love, and you do love. But that love can change to anger. It's a sense of entitlement sometimes. Navigating and negotiating through love. You know, Buddha, Krishna, and other enlightened souls taught the same thing about love. About loving your neighbor as you love yourself, about being kind, about being generous, about going out of your way. It's contemplative or contemplative, which means to think profoundly and prolonged at length. You sit around and you think about, are you loved? And what does that mean to you? And I always tell single people, don't just marry somebody you love, marry somebody you like. Because there's a lot of people you love that you don't want to live with, including the one you're living with. You have family, you have parents. My mother now doesn't want somebody around there all the time. We know she needs somebody in the house. She's 85. She lives out in the country in the big house that she and Daddy lived in before. But sometimes she doesn't want us. So we take turns staying there for periods. But she still wants her independence. We know Mom loves us, but she doesn't always like us. And we love her, but we don't always like our mom. And you don't always like yours. You don't always like yourself, but you do love yourself. So navigating between like and love and the pathos and the preciousness and the patheticness and the propheticness of love is a delicate dance, starting with how you experience and express yourself. I often ask the question, I'm sure I've asked it here before, what's working for you? And what's not working for you? If you wrote a list of what's working for you and what's not working for you, which would be the longest? What's working on you? What sort of keeps you awake at night? What's working as you? How do you show up in that relationship? How do you show up on that job? And what do you perceive to be working against you? When you sort through all of that, it will start and stop with what you believe about yourself. And I ask the question, what do you believe about you? Why do you believe that about you? And how do those beliefs about you add to or subtract from the quality of your life? In a minute, we'll all walk out of here and we'll say that you enjoyed a sermon or a song or a service, but the bottom line is, did you enjoy yourself? Not did you enjoy the sermon or the song or the sermon or the service, but did you enjoy yourself? Sometimes you enjoy everything but you. I'm learning how to enjoy myself and not feel guilty about it. Anybody with me? It's okay to be happy. It's okay to feel good about doing a benevolent deed and accepting the fact that when you say you love somebody, you're saying you love the part of yourself that you experience when you're with that person. If you say you love your mom, you're saying, I love the part of me. When we bury them or we eulogize them, we cry, we say, oh my God, I love them so much. I just love them. What you're really saying is that you love the part of you that appeared, that you experienced at that moment. By the same token, if you say, I can't stand so, you're actually saying you don't like the part of you that you experience when you're on that job or when you come home or when your kids call. Or when your neighbor calls. Adjusting how you appreciate or depreciate that experience is a very powerful revelation. Wrap your arms around yourself like this. Feel you. Be kind to you. recreate. Sometimes I say just change something in the house just to give yourself a new sense of you. Just shift something around. Change a tablecloth. Change a lamp. Change the lamp shade, especially if it's been the same one for 40 years. Change something. Just take a tetanus shot and go into the attic and see if you could change something around there. Get some antibiotics and go in the basement. So change is powerful. You're not in trouble, you're in transition. So you make the change, you manage the change, and then you master it. Change your attitude about you. Say this: I love me, I celebrate me, and I trust me. I receive love into my soul, into myself. I got this. I'm really good at being me. Now pat yourself on the face and say, you sweet little puppy breath, I love you so, little snail breath. You should we work on ourselves like that, especially when I've had a tense discussion with something or somebody, a little argument. I go back and sort of look in the mirror and say, you're all right. When I was in college, my roommate and I used to look in the mirror and say, you handsome Negro, don't you ever die. And you would say, you handsome or beautiful, whatever, don't you ever die. Lift those hands and wave, shift the energy around you just like this, come on. We want to get you on camera in a Unitarian church lifting your hands. That's going to be on YouTube tomorrow. I love you, God bless you.
Thanks for tuning in online. We are so pleased with all the different people who have been tuning in from all over the country and all over the world to our ministry and what we're doing at All Souls here in Tulsa. If you have a chance to send me an email or connect with me in some way, let me know what you're finding, why you tune in, and what you're getting out of it. I would love to hear from you. I'm always pleased when I get messages from different people who tell me all kinds of things about the impact of All Souls Tulsa's ministry on them and their lives and their families. And if you get a chance to make a gift to support this ministry, to become a partner, we would love to partner with you and have you be a friend of the church and somebody who is actually supporting us to create this congregation and the world that we're trying to create together. You can be a part of it, and every gift of every amount makes a difference. We really appreciate your support.